Hello everyone and welcome back to the Written in Melanin channel. Wherever this day may have found you, I am so glad that you are here. My name is Chelsea, better known as CM Vlogheart, and I am here as always to bring some melanin to your pages. And this is a hopefully new section on the channel that will remain and not fall off into the ether like everything else that I've tried to do. However, what I'm going to be talking to you guys about today is I'm going to be giving you 5 tips so that you can write complex characters. And this idea kind of came to me because, as you guys know, I'm a writer. If you don't know, I am a writer, and I have a book coming out on November 30th. It's called Keeping Promises, and I'm also an editor. I also do a couple other miscellaneous things. Check out the channel if you want to know what those are. But that being said, I know a couple of things about a couple of things, so I figured that I'd take some time today and share that with you guys. So, the reason I want to talk to you guys about complicated characters is because I've seen the advice to give characters flaws constantly, and there is a difference between giving a character a flaw and actually writing a complex character. And there's a difference between complex and complicated. So that is what we're here to make sure that you have one, the good thing, complex, and not the other, which is just straight up complicated. All right. So to do that, I'm going to give you guys 5 tips and tricks that I keep in mind when I'm creating my characters. These are by no means the end all be all. These are just things that I try to keep in mind when I am writing a character. That being said, let's just get into this. So, tip number 1. Give them values. And by that, I mean, give them something that they hold paramount, that they would rather die than to betray. And by that, I mean, give them something like honesty, loyalty, power, anything where they're like, this is the most important thing in life. If I don't have these things, I don't want life. Like, I'm not going to, if their character trait is loyalty, then have them be that person where it's just like, I would rather have my arm chewed off by rabid dogs than to betray the trust that you have in me. And have them be the person who puts their faith and trust into other people. This is who they are. This is their foundation. This is their building block. The point here is just to make sure that they have something that is the basis of who they are and where they come from and things that they hold paramount. If you don't have this in your character, it's almost impossible to create a complex character because they have no root and nothing to ground themselves in to be like, this is who I am and this is the thing that I hold dear to me. Tip number 2, give them flaws. And by this, I feel like this is the most common advice that you can get. It's literally all over the internet. I like to think of it as character traits. Things that are maybe not perfect about them, but that don't need to be changed by the end of the book. This is just who they are. And by that, I mean something like they can't whisper. Like if they're in a crowded situation and they can't read a room, they don't know how to lower their voice appropriately to make sure that what they're saying isn't heard by other people. That's a character flaw, believe it or not, but it's not something that necessarily needs to be fixed. Same thing as if you make them asocial, or if you make them super chatty, or you make them super quiet and reserved, or if you even give them something as simple as a caffeine addiction. And the reason I bring this up is because so many times when you're reading, I'll say specifically fantasy books, because a lot of times fantasy and adventure go hand in hand. If someone's got a caffeine addiction and then they go 4 days without having any because they're suddenly on this magical, mystical journey, yeah, like that first day, it's probably going to be great. But that third day, that fourth day, they're probably going to want to punch somebody in the face. Their mood's going to be a little cranky. That's what makes them complex. It's not the fact that they're addicted to caffeine. It's the fact that without it, they become a different person. They make different decisions. They think a little bit differently. That's what makes them a complex character. Same thing with them being asocial. If they choose not to interact with a whole bunch of people, that's not something that necessarily needs to be fixed by the end of the story, but it is going to change how they interact with people or when they get in situations with a lot of people. That's what makes your character complex, not just, oh, you have this reserved person, you're putting them in a situation and they just automatically adapt to that situation. Or worse, they stand there awkwardly because asocial means that they choose not to interact with people, not that they're incapable. And that's a huge difference between somebody who just straight up doesn't know how to. You can have a reserved character who doesn't like to interact with people, but still can do it well, versus the trope of, oh, I'm so awkward, so painfully awkward, someone is talking to me and I don't know what to do. Been there, done that, read it. I'm not saying it's a terrible thing if that's what you're doing, but also there are other ways to lean into that trope without doing the same thing that's been done a million times. So, moving on to tip number 3, which is to give them desires, give them things that they want. And this does not have to be intrinsic to the plot. So if you are writing a fantasy story and they're going on this magical adventure, that's cool, but give them things in their life that they want for themselves that are not necessarily linked into the plot. So maybe they want a bigger house, a nicer car, and it's just material things that they're after. Or maybe, they're starting to become more self-aware and they realize that maybe they're not a great friend, they're not a great listener, they've got a really short temper and that's affecting their life. So they're trying to, grow emotionally or spiritually or mentally, or anything that is important to them. Give them something that they want that's not linked to, oh, I have to save the world. Oh, I'm the chosen one. Oh, I had this magic power. Oh, I'm on this adventure and so I have to do these things. There's a difference between a want and a need, and a lot of times the things that you want drive the things that you do to get the things that you need. So keep that in mind. When characters are somewhat, not even selfish, but they are mindful of the things that they want for themselves, that they are after, then that plays into how they make their decisions, how they make their choices. And that gives you a more well-rounded, complex character rather than one that's just very basic, very two-dimensional, one who's just like, I'm going to save the world because I have to save the world. Or even the opposite of that, where they're like, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. If your character doesn't want to, lean into that. Explain why. Have the things that they actually want. Maybe they just want a quiet life and want to be left alone. They literally want to be a hermit in the woods and they can't because they're the chosen one. That's fine too, but just make sure that it's explained and it's there. It makes a huge difference when you're creating these characters. So that actually leads me into my next point, which is tip number 4. Give them reasons. Okay? And by this, I mean reasons to do things, reasons to not do things, reasons to be with people, to say the things that they say in their conversations, because no one does anything without a reason. Even if that reason is, I'm going to do this for the hell of it, that's fine. If the reason is, I'm going to do this because I don't normally do this, that's fine. But that is still a reason in and of itself. And when you have characters doing things, especially, in my opinion, this is very prevalent in dialogue, when you have characters explaining things that they wouldn't normally say. Why are they saying this? Why are they just giving away this information? If you're telling me that you have this very secretive, private person and they just met a stranger, why are they spilling their guts out to them? Are they just completely overwhelmed and the lid's off and they just have to get it off of their chest? Do they feel like they can just intrinsically trust this person? Have they met this person in a previous lifetime and they're just like, you know what, I'm going to talk to you? What is the reason? All right. It's important, and without those reasons, your character feels like they're just running around the story with like a chicken with their head cut off. Okay. It seems pointless. You don't know where they're going. And as the reader, it's very hard to connect to someone when you can't follow why they're doing something. And this leads into a different conversation that I may talk about later. But when people talk about writing characters who aren't inherently likable, it's because you understand their reasons, you just don't agree with them. And that's completely different from writing a character where you don't understand why they're doing what they're doing at all. One is good character writing. One is lazy. I'm just going to be honest. It's just lazy writing if you're not going to give your characters reasons for doing stuff. And that ties back into my earlier points, is not only do you have to give them a reason, those reasons have to line up with their character traits, their desires, and who they fundamentally are on a basic level. If those things don't line up, you just have a mess of a character. They're not complex. They're kind of just thrown together. And it comes through when you're reading the story. And that may seem kind of harsh, but also I feel like it's just me being real with you guys. So, that being said, pips me at my last tip number 5, which is give them highs and lows. One of my least favorite things when I'm reading a character is when it seems like the plot is the only thing that they care about, or their love interest is the only thing that they care about. And the reality of it is, if you're creating a complex character, they are going to have highs and lows. They're going to have ups and downs. And this shows itself in the same way that it shows itself in actual human beings. Like, you can have everything going right for you, and in that moment, you're going to choose to focus on the one thing that goes wrong. Like, it could be your wedding day, you're marrying your best friend, everything goes right, your mom's there, your family's there, everybody who's important to you is there, and you chip your nail. Okay, you wanted square nails, now you've got round ones so that your nails look nice. You're going to focus on that one thing that went wrong versus how everything else has gone right, and vice versa. When you're at the bottom, people are at the worst of their lives, they focus on the hope. They focus on the good things. They focus on how this can get better. And they may have moments where they live in that despair, but 9 times out of 10, they focus on the good thing, because that's how the human mind works. So if you're going to write a character, and again, they're going on this magical adventure, okay, have them be psyched about it. Or maybe they don't want to go on this adventure, whatever. But if they don't want to go, have them focus on the good thing. Like, at least the person I'm with is really cute. At least I get to finally use my magic. At least I'm no longer in this situation that I didn't want to be in. Or vice versa. They really want to go on this adventure and they're like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And have them be more than one thing. Even if you have a character who is a pessimist, have them have moments where they're optimistic, where they're looking towards the future, because nobody is one thing all the time. Even if you're a glass half full type person, you're still aware that the other half is actually empty. It's just how it works. So those are my tips and tricks. I have a couple other ones that I can share with you guys. So if this video was interesting to you, you found it helpful, you want more of this, please let me know. In the meantime, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications. If you guys are interested, every Tuesday we do a live stream. It's called the Melanin Chat, where we're sharing our journeys as writers. We're also sharing tips, tricks, latest gossip on Twitter, all the good stuff. We have a good time. We laugh. Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For sure, check it out. Also, if you're into supporting Black writers, you can definitely check out our Patreon, because there's a lot of cool stuff over there as well. So yeah, that is it for this video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you did, let me know what are your tips and tricks for writing complex characters. And if you watched it and you just don't know what else to say, leave a brown heart emoji. I always accept those down in the comment section. And that's it for real this time. You guys are amazing. I appreciate you. And until next time, I hope your days are lovely and your books are interesting. Bye, you guys.